So the question from Felix now is that what is the effect on the labor market? Is AI going to be able to disrupt the labor market? Is it going to take everybody out? Or is it another of those moments of inflection in the market where some time ago we thought computers were going to make everybody redundant because people were in typing pools and they will no longer be needed, and now they are still around. So what happened? I think my reflection on that is not any different from what Felix as an econ student is also reflecting, that technology generally makes productivity go up. So, when I did my thesis in 1995, 1996, part of my dedication, part of my foreword, I said printing, gunpowder, and the magnet. In those days, when, at the time those things were invented, people thought that they were going to turn the world around. They did turn the world around. They did redefine, the printing press redefined the culture. But at the end of the day, we are still around. And I think that, you see, when you look at the ages of history, you find that the antiquity is the period, between, let's say, creation and the first, let's call it a few thousand years BC. So during that period, is it a few thousand? Anyway, I don't remember the exact dates, but during that period, different continents defined their journey independently. So the Europeans sometimes even talk about, descending from the apes during that period and learning how to, play with the stones and the ice. That's their definition. The Asians have their own, discussion around that, and there are various entities in Chinese culture that are believed to have done all sorts of magical phenomena to move them forward to the early civilizations. But if we take the African one, you find that Egypt is, right from the onset, the civilization of Kemet, it is believed to be one of the oldest civilizations that is out there, because if you take biblical records, if you take archaeological records, these are the starting point of a lot. Now river civilization. So Egyptian, eventually Kushite, eventually Aksum, and the Nilotic tribes that were alongside all of those, and what is today in present-day Cameroon and so on, Benin Empire and Borno civilization and so on. They all kind of are part of that journey eventually into the Niger River kingdoms, which, Jeni Jenu, Nok Nok. There's a lot of history that comes up to there. Even here in this present space that we occupy, there's a very old civilization called the Kintampo complex, which is there. So the fact that these things have not disappeared, and we came into the medieval period, and it gets to a certain point of the medieval period where Europe says they were in the Dark Ages. The Romans had left them alone, and the tribes were not coping well. They felt they were in big depression. Whether they were Franks, they were Germanic tribes, they were Normans, they were Gauls, the Anglo-Saxons. They felt they were not coping well. So injecting the dimension of technology into this, you ask yourself that what actually birthed the economy in which people could do work? It was technology. It was the ability of people to come together, and of course, every region of the world, you have to intersperse it with the history as well. So the European one, when in 1095 the First Crusade was declared, and they had to go as far as Jerusalem to go and fight the caliphates, a lot of loot was brought back. So a few hundred years later, they were still fighting crusades. And there was, I think the Fourth Crusade was when, on their way back, there was the sack of Constantinople. And a lot of wealth was looted into Europe, which became the starting point of Venetian banks, Florence banks, and those balance sheets and those, bullion stores became the birthplace of a lot of capitalism as we know it today. So job creation and so on and so forth, you cannot only look at it from the lens of technology, but some of these things, suddenly, how were you in the dark ages, and then all of a sudden you are in the Renaissance, and everybody is excited and everybody is creating and so on? It's because a lot of material had come in, and that led to journeying, going to fight China, coming to start the slave trade in Africa and so on and so forth, which further took it to another level. And eventually, they moved from monarchies to feudal to billionaires and mercantilists and what we know today. So that is one pathway to jobs, because there was heavy loot, there was heavy infrastructure as a result of that. There was genocide, they wiped out a lot of people. And the combination of the violence and the disease that was inflicted by the violence and the disease that was inflicted by natural causes almost decimated, North America, Latin America, and Australia. China was, protected by very good dynasties for a long time. And, they started from the Xia, the, Shang, the Zhao. They had a lot of dynasties. But by the time they got to the Song dynasty, and there was a lot of weakness. The weakness was accompanied by the invention of gunpowder and a lot of also important technologies for going forward. But once they got to that dynasty, they became vulnerable to attack as well. And later on, other dynasties, the king and so on and so forth, tried to arrest the situation. But by the 19th century, they had become very vulnerable. And in fact, that vulnerability continued to the revolution of, I think, 1911 or something of the sort. So every part of the world has gone through its journey, including Africa. But every time you see that interplay of capital, talent, and technology or innovation. That is the modern lever. Those are the modern levers of the productive economy, and the production functions have changed to accommodate those. And today they are being manifest in the internet and artificial intelligence and all of that. So the long answer to your short question seems to be that the innovation keeps the jobs coming, and particularly in our part of the world, which operates with limited capital, then innovation is key to be able to grow the ecosystem and grow opportunities. When I worked at MTN as head of sales, we, as you may know, without knowing that I was there, but as you may know, we, in the years 2014 to 2021, scaled mobile money, for example, from 200,000 users a month to 11.7 million. How was that done? It was done by an accommodation of the society and its norms. So there's almost no major palace or traditional ruler's residence or opinion leader or community leaders turf which we did not enter. I personally, because of this journey, I know the palace of the Awemefia in Anlo, the palace of Agbogbo-Mefia in Ho, the Nagbewa palace of the Yana in Yendi. I know the Wana's palace. I haven't been to Yagbonra's palace in the Gonja community, but a lot of my very senior people went there. And likewise in, Achim, we went to, we met Ochehine in a couple of his palaces. And of course we were in Mensha Palace so many times every year. But those things, as you see, when you look at Ghanaian culture today, it is that fusion of the technology, the history, the social engagement that can entrench innovation and make it a bedrock for global growth. So from your economic standpoint, I think you have a way you are looking at it. But from my point of view as an engineer, as an IT guy, as a salesman, I feel that technology is creating a lot of growth. We can rest.